So today I'm making little tiny birds to put on other things, and I want to show you the easy way to do this. They're not perfect little birds, but they'll look quite cute when they're painted. So I'm just going to set those ones that I've made, whoops, down there. I just want to show you too, like when there's little burr pieces on the clay, it's best not to fuss too much with such small items and get all those little burr pieces off. You could get a sponge, dip it in water, wring it out well and sponge over, or you could sponge over with a dampened tiny paintbrush, like an artist brush. But I found when I do that, they take way too long to dry, and the extra water in the clay causes them to crack. So sit up boy. Okay, so making the little bird out of aluminium foil first. I'm going to show you how to do that. So the easy way is first of all, I make a tiny ball with a beak on it for his head. Then I work outside so everything blows away. Then a slightly bigger ball, slightly longer, more than it is round, for the body. And a little peak out here to attach the tail to. Then the next thing I do is I get a piece of alfoil, can you see this? And I just fold it diagonal like this. Then I put the body in first, into the center, with the tail end facing down this way, down the long part of the foil. And then his little head with his beak goes upside down that end. Hold them together, push the alfoil over, and start shaping the outside of the bird. Oops, all went too wet. I'll just have to move it a bit. See if I can do it up here. So I like to get that beak close to there. Push down a little bit on the bottom part. Just reshape his beak there, and that tail piece is going down this end. So just line the beak up with the edge of the the edge of the foil. Push the body in a bit, wrap foil over, both, and over again. Then you've got this kind of shape. Then you just finish scrunching all of that together and making the tail. See, easy. Let me just cut that off. Keep the alfoil in case you need to fix it somehow. So can you see that his beak's coming out here? His head's there. I'm going to put a little bit of alfoil around his neck. Scrunch it all in. Now we're ready to wrap it in clay. So I'm using the clay from Kmart that I buy here in Australia on the Gold Coast where I live. This is only $3 a pack. It's not the most brilliant clay, but it's nearly as good as DAS, I believe. And so it's only costing me $6 a kilo. So if you make these kind of structures, that's great. So you just get a little bit more of the clay out, and then make sure you wrap the clay back up. And you can do that with a wire or just pinch it off. Because these are such small birds, we can just pinch a bit off here with our hands. I'll turn this around if we can so you can see. I might tilt it up a bit more. There we go. So just grab a bit, twist it off. Make sure you wrap this back up straight away because it's air-dried clay and the air will dry it. And then put it upside down back in its pack. Sometimes a bit hard to get back in. And let's sit it there. Now the other thing I should tell you, what I've got ready is some slip. And this is just watered down clay, and if I wanted to I could smooth those birds out with this clay, but because they're so tiny I don't want to do that. I want to leave them alone as much as possible so that they'll be dry this afternoon. But see how that helps just soothe it all a bit. Now because it's air dried clay and it's cheap clay, there may be some cracks when this dries, so if it does, we've got the slip mixed, ready to go. And all as that is, which you probably know from other videos, it's just your leftover clay. Put it in a tiny amount of water, and I always add 3 drops of eucalyptus oil, essential oil, the pure essential oil, to this to stop any fungus forming, and that way I can keep that bottle of slip for 6-7 months without it going in the fridge. So goes there. Haven't got the lid on properly. What was I doing? I know. So bring this back right here. So you need to mold extremely well, just like you are making pastry, and keep pushing your clay into each other, breaking it up and pushing it to make sure you get all the air bubbles out. At this point, if you want to, you could also add a tiny bit of PVA glue, but flatten this out completely. Slither a tiny bit of PVA glue on here and it makes it more workable. If you want to do finer things, like if you want all the feathers to be more realistic, which I'll show you one day. But right now, we're just making quick, cheap birds because I need a couple of them for my project this afternoon. So then I need to bring that back up. So push the clay in between your hands and flatten it. Knead it out with your thumb and fingers until it's about 5 millimeters thick. I don't know what that is in inches. I'll look it up later and put it down in the comments below. And I hope you can hear me because I didn't put the microphone on today. Okay, we'll do this little darling. You know which ways you go, goes that way. We'll do it that way. Oh. I better get off here. I'll just move a few things so you can see what I'm doing. Don't need my turntable for a small bird. So I just sit him on a diagonal like that. See how the beak's up this end and the tail. Is that it? Somehow my tail's turning around. Okay, then I just wrap the clay over. Wet my fingers a tiny bit. Tiny bit. You don't want water cracking and slowing down the drying process of the clay. Pinch together. Over his head and over his beak. Just pinch it all together. Pull off what you don't need. Slip that under there so it doesn't dry out. I love that my pinch line is at the top. You can do it down the bottom, but for me it works better. Oh, I've almost made a dolphin, look. But we're making birds today. I never do it as well on camera, and I seem to take longer. Oh well. If you're having trouble smoothing it with your fingers and getting the shape of the bird, I'll show you in a minute. You can actually use one of your pottery tools. Needs more clay there. And if you don't have quite enough clay at the top to cover that aluminium, just scoop some up from the bottom. You've got 5 mil, so you can take a mil from the bottom. Once you've got that center seam joined together, you can start shaping the bird. Want him to have like a bluebird type of tail, which is usually a bit squarish at the end. Okay, push his little head up, start to shape the head. And the beak. Bring his head up, because when you're not going to give them feet, it means they're going to be sitting, so they're actually going to be looking up. So try and get their head up a bit. Now I don't feel he has enough clay on his head, his or her head, so I'll make a little ball, squash it out a bit and pop it on like it's a cap. And then just pinch out with your fingers to blend that in. And then get your little trusty tool. One of these little plastic pointing tools is fine. And don't point in, slither over the top. Practice makes perfect. Look, I've been making these since I was a child, a young child. I'm now in my late 70s, and sometimes I can just do it really quick and it looks perfect, and other times I make a whole mess of the whole thing and have to pull it apart and start again. You have your good days and your bad days when you're sculpting. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing it for. Certainly gets easier as time goes on, but okay, is it starting to look a little bit like a bird? Yes. Bring this tail up a bit. I'm not good at these video making because I tend to talk to myself instead of talk in such a way that you can understand me. And can you see the shape is starting to happen? And that's it. You just keep fiddling around till you've got him looking right. And he's got too much clay there, so I'll just take some of that away. So I've taken some away from under there to give him a better shape. And that's it. Now you just use the pointer tool and carve in an outline for the wing, which normally joins close to the tail. Make some little curved feathers. Make some feathers that come down into the tail area and give the tail some feathered like strokes. And just put a few more strokes over his body. Oops. Give him a bit of a ridge around the neck. And then put in the eyes level with the opening of the beak, and there's the opening of the beak there. So you come up. And I use the other end of this tool and create a bit of a hole. And there you have it, another little bird made of clay. I hope you found that helpful. I'll come back when I've painted the birds. That won't be till next week, but I won't be putting the video up for a few weeks, so you'll get to see it all in play. Over and out. Bye.